Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of this segment of Travel Talks, where we delve into topics regarding travel, travel social media, and mostly travel content around the web, around news, and everything else. This is a new subsection of Media Talks TV, so you know I wanted to create another talking segment that focuses on a travel space. I don't know if I'm going to make this a separate channel, but you know, um, there's a lot of things going on in the travel space, and I'm going to be documenting some of those issues. So it's not going to be just off random, but it's going to be much more organized and straight to the point. So let's jump right into it. I wanted to talk about again the passport bros, and there's been a lot of changes recently in the travel space. Now people are not going to Colombia anymore, and I would say a lot of travelers are actually finding themselves being banned from Colombia now. And it's interesting to see what's happening with Passport Bros in Colombia, because before 2019, nobody ever considered traveling to Colombia. Colombia just became popular mainly because of the TV show Narcos. Tourism blew up in 2019 before the pandemic, and people were going to Medellin. Now you're seeing Medellin cracking down. Immigration is now cracking down on who they want and who they don't want in the country. And what's been happening right now is people are being turned away for supposedly promoting S tourism, or a different type of tourism that evolves around the pursuit of women and working girls. And it's funny to see a lot of content creators try to hype this up as, oh, they don't want black people in Colombia. But the truth is, they don't want a certain subsection in Colombia. Colombia isn't really a destination I would consider going or even retiring to on my list of on my well my bucket list of countries, mainly because Colombia has a reputation that is similar to Mexico. I wouldn't even consider going to Mexico, and I wouldn't even suggest anybody to go to Mexico or retire in Mexico, because, as I've stated before, Mexico and Colombia both have reputations that precede them, but they don't want to acknowledge nor fix the issues that give their country a truly true bad name. So what they do is they shift it onto the tourists. The tourists are the problem. But how could you blame somebody that's giving you money and investing in your infrastructure? You know, it's kind of like what I would say this kind of like They're biting the hand that feeds them. But for years, Colombia has had issues with their reputation as a country, and they're trying to shift that blame over to tourists, as if tourists are to blame for why Colombia has gotten so bad. That it wasn't the fact that it wasn't the fact that they had a drug culture way before we ever stepped foot in the country. But they don't want to talk about that aspect of their culture. Of course, Colombia has had to deal with the issue of the lingering effects of Pablo Escobar. And they've tried very hard to try and rectify that. That's one of the primary reasons why tourism exploded the way it exploded in Colombia. It wasn't a tribute to uh, sex tourism. It was attributed to the fact that people wanted to visit Hacienda Cienopolis, the basically the zoo of Pablo Escobar's zoo, and the mansion that he had. It's just like when people go to Chicago, they go to Chicago because they have a curiosity about Al Capone. Well, the same thing has always lingered for Colombia, and people don't want people. What I've heard is people don't want them to talk about Pablo Escobar or Pablo. But the thing about it is, because of the lore in the media, they were able to leverage that to get people to want to move to Colombia. Back then, when I heard anything about Colombia, it was always perceived as a dangerous place and also a place that you didn't want to go or get lost in because of the drug cartels. And because Colombia is known for cocaine and all this stuff, now they want to blame it on the working girl situation. And then they want to blame it on the sex tourism and parqueyeras and all these other places, and then want to turn people away. And I would say, I wouldn't want to go to a country, any country, that has had an explicit uh animosity towards gringos or foreigners. Cause I'm like, well, why would I want to go somewhere where I'm not wanted? Why not go to somewhere where your dollars are appreciated? If people treat you a certain way, why keep going back there? And I ask myself all this time, they want to blame the drugging of men on the fact that they're going there looking for working girls. And that's not really the case. Until Colombia can get its shit in order, I would advise any traveler not to go there ever. If you can't read the room and know that you're not appreciated there, why would you go somewhere where you're not appreciated? Why would you sit in a room where the tension is hot and you know that there's that undertone of animosity towards you? You're putting yourself in the lion's den when you do that. And I know a lot of people like Colombia and a lot of bros love Colombia, but it's really time to give it up and shift away from Colombia and go somewhere else. You know, there are other Latin American countries you can go to where they're not going to have you drugged or take your electronics, your watches, and your jewelry. You know, but the problem is so many people. It seems like a lot of bros just don't get it until they dead, drugged, or robbed. And that's one of the things that, I guess it's time for us to really reevaluate going to Colombia and giving your money to the Colombians. I would advise against it until they get their house in order. Till they can get their stuff together, they should be on a do not travel list at this point. They should be on a do not travel. They should be a level 4 and not a level 3. And there's reasons for that have a lot to do with Venezuela as well. But if I were the State Department, I'd probably put Colombia at a level 4 at this point. Because if you have people getting robbed and drugged for no apparent reason, then something is wrong with that, and the government won't respond to that issue by locking these people up and putting these people in jail. I say you're leaving yourself in a position of vulnerability when you go there. It ain't about moving different. A person could move different and still get robbed and drugged. Doesn't matter. Nobody goes on vacation to have to look over their shoulder. That's not what a vacation is supposed to be about. Ever. Another aspect, I want to talk about Dominican Republic because even with Dominican Republic, your chances over there are better and safer than going to Colombia at this point. But it's not without to say that there are a lot of scams going on even in DR that people got to be hip to. I had one incident, and right now there's this thing on these WhatsApps. Now that Sosua has gone through its cleansing, the girls are now moving on WhatsApp groups. And a lot of these WhatsApp groups, they have either they're selling videos, content, or they're asking and begging you for money. And even though they say they're looking for something real, a lot of these girls know that if you can send them money and keep sending them money, then they don't have to really promise you anything. And one of the things with the reason why, you know, I'm informing you to be very careful in these WhatsApp groups because you can't ascertain the age of some of the girls in the group. And just because they say they're one age and they're another, it could set you up into walking into a trap. And the last thing you want to do is talk to somebody on WhatsApp that's underage. So you have to be very careful. I wouldn't talk to anybody unless they gave me their age and their cedula. Make sure when you're talking to somebody on these WhatsApp apps that you ask for their cedula and you ask for their age because some of them can lie about their age. And one of the things is a lot of these WhatsApp groups that you might be in might be tracked by the police, the policia in DR, and they could be scams. If that person isn't willing to give you their Facebook so you can see what they look like, cause it's bullshit if they tell you if a Dominican tells you they don't have a Facebook account or I don't use it, don't believe that shit. That's a big red flag. And there's different types of girls in these WhatsApp apps, in these WhatsApp groups. Some they say they looking for something serious. Other ones are the working girls. But some of them meander between the girls, the Sosua girls and the Santo Domingo girls. And you can't tell or tell the difference between the girls that are working girls and the girls that are serious. So then it's like you're playing kind of Russian roulette with the whole thing. Every person is going to want to ask you for money. There's those beggars, and then there's those girls that in the barrios that just want to ask you to send them money. They're not looking for a real relationship. And that's problematic. And even in the situation, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Dominican Republic is a beautiful country and they got beautiful people. But they also, it's just a fantasy at this point. You don't know what to trust, you don't know who to trust. And part of that comes with a lot of problems. These apps, the only time you'll be able to really understand them is if you go down there and live down there and you speak the language. Other than that, it's just for play. But, you know, one of the things that passport bros need to start doing, and I feel like this is important for them, is to start not focusing on traveling just for women. Women are always going to be around no matter where you go, but if you understand the culture and you understand the language, you won't have any problems meeting women and befriending them and getting to know them. you know. And that's one of the issues, like with the passport bros, is when these guys make content, and I'm not pointing to specific content creators. When they make specific content, they don't make the information that they need, that people need in order to, survive on a trip. But they make content about the girls, and they make content about the parties, and then you got two, three girls in a jacuzzi tub. And that's mostly been all the content that's been coming out with the passport bros. And it can't always be about girls, and it can't always be about, you sitting up in an Airbnb smoking a cigar and sitting in a jacuzzi tub. You know, I know people want to live lifestyles that are rich and famous because they can't get it in the states. But at the same time, that's not what travel should all be about. It should be about a spiritual journey. It's about your ability to get out of the West and experience something different. When my friends traveled abroad during college, it was for an educational experience. It wasn't for, just to get girls. And I feel like the black content creators always put so much emphasis on the women, but not enough on the country itself and how beautiful the country can be, you know, and not giving an accurate portrait of what it costs to live there or be there. Most of y'all got 9 to 5s and can only afford to go there for like 4 days and then come back home. That ain't even enough, even for me. So I say to a lot of you, start shifting the content in an informational rather than an entertainment space. You can have your entertainment from time to time, but now we got to go into more informational content so that people can understand what going to these specific countries are like. And that's the content that's going to last on YouTube. That's the content that's going to have the longevity, and that's content you can actually convert into um your subscribers into consistent business. You offer a product or a service through that. And that's where the pivot should start coming in. That's the most important part. Second part of this conversation is the beefing gotta stop. You got all these content creators beefing with each other online, don't even know each other from a fucking can of paint. And I feel like that's the worst thing you can do, is beef with another content creator when you could be collaborating and really creating a platform for everybody to be on. That should be the goal. Not getting into beef online and lives and live streaming and beefing with each other. Like keep that shit in the States. Don't bring it with you. And I'm tired of that this beefing mentality amongst beefing mentality amongst black men. We can't even agree to disagree half the time. But if we speaking with each other, it seems like it's all this natural nasty vitriol that goes on with each other, calling people lame and claiming somebody ain't got game and getting into I got more women than you. I could pull more women than you in the states than you can in overseas, and you're a lame because you gotta pay for it and all this spiel this shit. And even I'm seeing it in the manosphere space, which is getting out of hand too. And I'm gonna talk about that in another video soon. But even in a travel space, everybody want to act like some type of East Coast West Coast rap war shit. Like it's not necessary. I don't care how many women that you pull. If you pull more in the states or outside the states, who cares? Why does it always have to come down to a pissing contest? Why does everything with black men have to come down to how far I can reach versus the next man? And that's what's wrong with the travel space. And it seems like when black men get out of the states, they bring this mentality with them, and they bring this lifestyle mentality with them, and then you wonder why countries are starting to take an aversion to you, because that mentality is starting to erode that country that you're visiting. You should be coming there just to be peaceful and being quiet, not making a lot of noise. But instead, because your hunger for making content, because most of these content creators, they make they travel money off of the videos that they post on this platform. They make all their money like that, and they're compelled to do the most outlandish shit online, embarrassing people. You got a lot of countries right now trying to change laws because of content creators. Most people don't want you to come to Bali, don't want you to come to Thailand no more, because Thailand is changing their visa statuses. Vietnam probably gonna be next. Y'all losing these countries because these countries are starting to crack down on this shit. And it's not just the black content creators, it's the white content creators as well. I'm not gonna just single out just y'all, but it's also white content creators as well. The obnoxious mentality and an obnoxious, not being able to treat people with not being able to treat people with the decency and the respect that you would at home, doing shit that you couldn't get away with in the States. Whether it be Floyd or Austin or any of these other content creators, know that in some respects, you won't be welcome in most countries if you keep up with the behavior and and the need to reach more subscribers. That's why it's important to build your own damn platform for your own content. That way you have more control over it and you can gatekeep. And that should be the strategy, not the other way around. But I thank you for watching, and that's all I want to say on this topic. Be sure to tune in next time to another Travel Talks. I'm Tony J again, and make sure you subscribe to Media Talks TV. Make sure you hit the like and share this video because I want my message to get out. Thanks for watching. Peace.